Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Melissa Tui, and you are here for Ozobot 101. Again, if you just joined us, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Make sure to select everyone in the two fields so that everyone can see your message. We'll go ahead and get started with our introductions. My name is Melissa, and I am the Director of Education at Ozobot. I'm a former kindergarten and first grade teacher. I've also coached teachers in implementing computer science. When I'm not at Ozobot, I'm at UCLA researching computer science education. And I'll pass it to Brian to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, thanks Melissa. My name is Brian, as you can see. I represent a few states here at Ozobot. Been at the company for a couple of years now. Absolutely love everything STEAM, robotics, computer science. You can't find me at UCLA after work, but you can find me in the ocean or definitely running with my dog here at the beach somewhere.
Thank you, Brian. Sorry, I'm so many windows open. I'm trying to make sure I'm organized so that we can get started. Great. So today we're going to go over some housekeeping items. Brian's going to give you an introduction to Ozobot and give you a 2 ways to code demo. I'm going to talk about the latest content that the EDU team has developed, and then we'll go over the Ozobot hybrid program and end with Q&A. So if you have opted in for updates, you will get a recording of this webinar and the access to the slide deck. If you have any questions at any moment, please pop them into the chat or use the Q&A feature. We will be circling back around to answer all the questions that you have. We also have our staff members, Crystal and Jen, in the background answering questions. So feel free to pop any questions in the chat and they'll get to them there if they're able to. You can also upvote one another's questions or provide your own insights in the Q&A. And the last thing I just want to remind everyone one more time is in that to field, make sure to select everyone so that everyone can see your message. We are going to start with some poll questions. So let me go ahead and launch those polls. We'd love to know how familiar everyone in the audience is with Ozobot. We'll give everyone about 30 seconds to answer this poll question. About 5 more seconds. All right, looks like we have a great mix in the audience. We have those that have Ozobots all the way to brand new to Ozobot. So we'll make sure to answer any questions you might have, no matter what your experience level is. Our second question is, we'd love to know what grade level everyone is working with. I'll give everyone about 15 more seconds to answer that poll question. All right, and it looks like we're 3rd grade all the way through high school. So welcome everybody. Our last poll question is, what subjects are you most interested in teaching? And we'll give everyone about 30 seconds to answer those questions. All right, it looks like we have all the letters of STEAM from T through M. Hopefully somebody gets some science thrown in there at some point, but we know that teachers are prioritizing different things and focusing on different things, but we're really excited that you all are touching on different subjects. So thank you so much for participating in that poll. I'm going to pass it over to Brian to go ahead and talk to you about Ozobot. Brian, you're on mute.
Dang, that's honestly my first time during the pandemic doing that. So, of course, it's first time for everything. But I was saying, definitely want to make this conversational. So if there's something that I'm going too fast on, you have questions or anything like that, definitely throw it in the chat. And I'm sure if I don't see it, someone will bring it to my attention and I can address it at that time. So I think everyone is familiar with Ozobot, perhaps. Is that correct, Melissa? I want to make sure that.
Yeah, we have some that are brand new to Ozobot as well. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, so just kind of briefly on robotics itself. Gallup does, tons of polls, and they recently did one regarding computer science. And I'm sure everyone's pretty familiar with computer science is a big push these days from the state down. And not only from the state down, but from the parents themselves. So about 9 out of 10 parents said that they really want their kids involved with and learning computer science in the classroom, which is great because that's where we come in. Especially with Ozobot too, we are certainly hands-on. If you haven't seen our bots before, they're about 1 inch in diameter. If you can see this on my screen right here or my video. So they're easy to play with, easy to use, very functional. And again, it's hands-on, so the kids aren't having any sort of screen fatigue when it comes to everything like that. When it comes to just Ozobot itself too, their skills are right in the wheelhouse from K through 12th grade, which is great too. And then it's really helping with their social emotional learning too. Quick story, I have a cousin who's in high school, and when I ask him, hey, how's school? He's like, nothing's cool, nothing's great. But then I brought Ozobot over to my parents' house one time. He was really excited, wanted to see what this was all about, and said it was really cool. So from a teenager who doesn't think anything is cool, doesn't, but actually played with the Ozobot, it kind of boosted his social emotional well-being. Any question on just kind of why robotics or anything like that? I didn't see that in anything in the chat, but I guess we can move on to the next screen. All righty. So Ozobot as a company, we're relatively new to the space. We've been around for about 7 years. We are in over 30,000 schools nationwide. We're in over 45 countries, which is really cool. And then when students use our bots too, we see a huge increased engagement, not only from just STEM, but just robotics and just interest all around, which is great. So I mentioned before the size of our bots. I'll hold it up again too if you haven't used them before, but they're about 1 inch in diameter. And what's great about these is we can code 2 ways. So pretty standard coding is when you type on your computer or you drag and drop coding. That's kind of what everyone thinks about for a software engineer. But what's great about Ozobot is you can actually use colored markers to code. So again, we're dealing with screen fatigue or their lack of, and students can actually use their hands to code with their bots. And what's really cool about Ozobot too is we have over 500 lessons that span all grade levels, and I'll actually dive into that in just a minute too. But again, just a quick recap, Ozobot, 1 inch in diameter, 2 ways to code, both on screen and off screen. And we already have a ton of curated lessons for everyone. All right, cool. So back to this coding on screen and off screen. So what you see here on the left-hand side is our bots actually reading colored markers. So what the student has done, and I'll be able to show you in just a second, they've used markers on their piece of paper, and the bot actually reads the code or the colored lines that they go over. Secondly, on the right-hand side, you can see that student is dragging and dropping coding real briefly over there. And robot does one of 2 things. It can either upload that content or that code via Bluetooth or flash upload it. And what I mean by that is they actually hold up their robot to their screen and it flash uploads the code. And then the student can run the program on their desk. So it's super desk friendly, both on screen and off screen. And I think I want to show everyone just kind of what it looks like, at least with colored markers. So what I'm going to do right here is switch over. So, and again, am I missing any questions? Just let me know, Melissa.
No, I don't think so. But what I will say is if you are in the audience, you can pin Brian's screen so you can get a better view of it. On the top right corner, there is the view button. You can go to full screen and then also pin Brian's camera angle so that you can fully see what he's showing you.
Yeah, I'm trying to, let's see, where's choose? Okay, let's see. Can we see? Yes, we can. All right, so I have to apologize a little bit in advance because I am working from home and with the space on my desk isn't that great, but I think you guys can kind of probably see a little bit. Let me move this out of the way. I'll lose that for just a second and then let's see if I can get this again. All right, 1 second. Sorry, everyone. Okay, we can see that right there. Cool. All right, so what I have here is a blank piece of paper and I have my Ozobot. There we go. Oh man. All right, blank piece of paper, my Ozobot. I'm just gonna simply turn it on by just pressing the on switch button. And you can see the lights kind of turn on and let me know that we're good to go. What our bot does again is it actually reads colored markers. So if I just draw a straight black line, the bot is gonna read that line. And what's cool about our markers is you can use, or what about our bots and markers is you can use any sort of markers. It doesn't have to be the Ozobot branded markers, but you can use Crayola. It'll read just fine. Just make sure you have a nice thick line to it. But once I press the bot on the line, you should be able to. Okay. Let me actually try this one right here.
And if this happens in the classroom, we recommend that students calibrate their bot before every use. So that could be part of the troubleshooting that you go through, that, when the lighting changes in the room, the sensors are affected. And so that's why the bots need to be recalibrated, which all of our materials cover how to do that in the lessons.
And I just calibrated it beforehand too. So of course, once I'm on the big screen, it wants to kind of mess with me. So bear with me, everyone. Okay, can we kind of see it running just straight right there? I actually have a finished product right here I'm going to run for you. What's cool about this is I'm going to skip forward just a little bit, but what I've done is actually added some code to this piece of paper. So the bot's going to do specific functions. It might go fast, it might make sounds, it might go backwards, it might speed up. And what it's doing is just reading the code and following my directions. So let's see what it does right here. Oh man, come on. There we go. I don't know if you can see in this light too, but it's actually changing colors as it goes over the certain code. So you can see it might have turned red right there. And it's going at a real snail's pace, and that's the snail's pace code right there. And it's following the directions that I've told it. Let me run it one more time so you can see it in action again. All right, cool. So I think you can kind of get an idea of at least the bot running in real time using colored markers. And again, I'm going to show you one more time to how you can actually use actual markers with it. So I want to do, let's just do a straight line of black. We'll go red, and then we'll go blue. Let's just see what happens with this. So I didn't really add any code per se, but this was just telling it to go in a straight line and reading the actual colors. Now it's turned red. Now it's turned blue, and it'll stop at the end right there. All right, so sorry about the technical difficulties, but at least you get a sense of how it can actually read with color markers. So let me revert back to this. And Melissa, I don't know if you want to show or want me to show Blockly, but that's definitely something I wanted to highlight next for the coding on screen.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right, let me see if I can't share my screen. Who can share? Okay, everyone. So what I'm going to show you right here is our Ozoblockly. So secondly, this was the coding on screen. I'm not using colored markers at all. And what's cool about this is we have 5 different levels of coding on screen. We start with our beginner level, so pretty much pre-reader. We can add simple things like movements, lights, sounds, and then as we progress, we don't you don't have to kind of go to or achieve any sort of merit to go to these next levels. We just add them as you progress in your learning, all the way through our master, which is typically high school or college level. So we go from simple movements, lights, and sounds, all the way to math, variables, and functions, stuff that's way past my pay grade, perhaps even Melissa's too. But there are some smart cookies out there that are just so advanced that really take advantage of these sorts of things. Just 1 second. So again, we're talking about just simple dragging and dropping. So if I want to start some code, I can just drag it from my bar over here and connect it and see the code right there. Additionally, we have some things to really help out the students, which is our glossary. So you click on the level that you want, and you can see what's going to go on with the code you're going to be using. Additional functions too, we have any sort of challenges you want to either do yourself or the student. We have, there we go, our help section. So any sort of tutorial, calibration, which I was trying to do a little bit before we hopped on today. You can actually run the program, edit the blocks, any sort of troubleshooting. We have all this right here for you. And then again, if you want to connect your robot and actually run the code that you have done, you just connect the bot right here, either Bluetooth or flash upload, and it'll run the bot for you. Any questions on our Blockly coding? All right, I think silence is golden typically. Let's see, I'll stop sharing that. So, Melissa, I don't know if you want me to go over Ozobot Classroom, but didn't know what the next slide particularly was. So I'll let you direct me on which way to go.
Yeah, I was going to jump into lesson content, and then maybe we can go over Ozobot Classroom after, if that works for you.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Cool, great. So our education team has been diligently working to provide content that is flexible, applicable to any teacher under any circumstance. We know COVID was tough when it first hit and school shut down. We know the last school year was incredibly challenging, and we don't know what's in store for this upcoming school year. So we really wanted to make sure that students, no matter if they were in school, learning remotely, wherever they were, they had an opportunity to continue to engage in computer science learning. So we have new lessons that we have called video lessons. Each lesson, right now we're focusing on 2nd through 8th grade, kindergarten and 1st grade content is coming soon. We recommend a pacing of 1 lesson per week, and these activities are about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the grade level. Older students, we know they have the developmental ability to go a little bit longer. So the older students have more challenging and longer lessons, whereas younger students have more of that 30-minute mark lesson. All of these lessons also are aligned with standards. So whether that's all lessons are aligned with at least 1 ISTE standard, 1 CSTA standard, and 1 content standard, which would be Common Core Math, Common Core ELA, or NGSS. And all of our video lessons include a synchronous lesson plan. If you're a teacher that's confident in teaching coding and computer science, there's a traditional lesson plan for you. If you are a teacher that's working with other teachers that may be less confident, there's a student-facing instructional video that guides students through all of the learning and the whole lesson so that they can be successful. There's also a student activity guide and activity sheets, and an answer key or potential solution depending on what the activity is for you, so that you can reference that when checking your students' work. So in a lesson video, we cover everything from the objectives of the lesson, the materials needed, and any front loading of information for students to be successful. And we actually walk students through step by step exactly what to do in the lesson. We've actually reached out to some of our CEs to get some feedback. And if you happen to use these video lessons and have feedback for us, please send it. We're always looking to improve and looking to make things easier for you to use in the classroom. It was interesting because 2 of our certified educators mentioned that they tried teaching these lessons independently first because they were super comfortable with the content and super excited. And they said the first time they tried to teach it with their students, it was a mess. Things got crazy, things got super messy, but then they used our videos with other classes and they said it was a night and day difference. There was structure, students knew exactly what to do, and they were much more successful. So even our most confident teachers find benefit from using the videos to help guide the instruction. So I highly encourage you all to check that out as a resource because it's there to help support you. I just want to go over some of our content integration examples. We do have an Introduction to Color Codes lesson series, an Introduction to Ozobot lesson series, and those are all based on the CSTA standards. So based on the grade level and the skills of the students, we scaffold and have broken down computer science concepts and skills in really manageable ways in individual lessons so that you can teach them at your own pace, covering the content that you would like to cover with your students. But this lesson here is an example of a math integrated lesson. This is called the number randomizer lesson, where students actually use the randomness of the bot to come up with place value numbers to the thousandth place. And so if you're not familiar with Ozobot, when it comes to an intersection and it's not given a directional color code, it actually chooses a direction randomly. So we're using Ozobot as a fun engagement tool to randomly choose digits in order to create numbers to the thousandth place. And students are tasked with using their bot to choose those random numbers. Then they write the number in standard form, word form, and expanded form.
And quickly, Melissa, before you go to this new screen, if you saw this 5th grade math random numerizer, that was actually the one that I showed an example for. And if you remember, the bot actually went in 2 different directions both times I placed it on there. So you could have seen the randomness of the bot itself.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Brian. So what I'll do is I'll actually play a quick part of this video so you can get an idea of what the look and feel of these instructional videos feel like, to see if they would work in your students. I'm just going to share my sound really quickly. And we'll go ahead and play this chapter. So this is in the middle of the video. They've already been front-loaded the information that they need. They know the materials. This is guiding them through that first parts of creating their number in standard form. Ozobot is ready to make a 6-digit number. Are you? We'll place our bot on start. Then we'll watch as it follows the pathway until it gets to a digit. Once it reaches a digit, we will write this digit in the hundreds place under standard form. My bot made it to the number 1. In the first place here, I will write 1. Then we'll repeat this 5 times to program Ozobot to move from start to complete my decimal number. My second number is 0. My third number is 9. Since it's truly random, your bot might choose the same number multiple times. How many digits or places will your number have when you are done? So you can see, again, we guide students through every single part. That's just one tiny part of the lesson, but students get to watch me do it, and then they're asked to complete the task. And we do it in really intentional small steps so that they can be successful. Let's see. In this ELA lesson, students are learning about prefixes, and they're also using the randomness of the bot again to put in color codes to have the bot line switch, which means it travels over this white area and then randomly it'll detect the new line and start following it, and then randomly choose an arm of this diagram below to choose a root word. So the bot starts here. And it'll travel past a prefix, and students need to combine the prefix that the bot chooses with the root word and determine whether it's a real word. And if it's not a real word, it has to choose a different root word to make a complete word that is a real word. So for example, if the bot traveled by and then traveled to school, the word would be unschool. They would determine that's not a real word. So they would have to choose another root word. So un and lucky could be an example of their word. And in this deck, I won't play every single video, but these resources are available for you to come back and check out to see what the lesson is like. So that is there for you. I also want to quickly touch base about our STEAM and SEL lessons. We have more content integrated with science and STEAM subjects, also with social emotional learning. And this is an example of our gratitude party lesson that we had created for the Thanksgiving holiday last year, but you can use this at any time in your classroom if your students need some social emotional learning, which we know is going to be a necessity with all kids coming back to school in person after not seeing their friends for over a year. So that is another content integration lesson where students actually identify things that they're grateful for. They create some art to go with their map, and then their bot travels to a party to celebrate their gratitude. So with that, I do want to show you very quickly. So again, I mentioned we had our new lesson series. We have our introduction to Ozobot Blockly lessons and our introduction to color code lessons. And you can find those in Ozobot Classroom, which is completely free to sign up. When you create an account, when you go to lessons here, there is this filter called video lessons. And if you click on that, you'll see that there's this play button. That icon signifies that there's video content attached with it. The icon on the left with the O means that it is developed by Ozobot. So our team internally created this content. So to get to the video, you can you can click on the link to the lesson here, which will take you to the lesson video. And we've made it super simple for you to share this content with students. We know every school and every teacher and has a different LMS system. So we wanted to create this as simply as possible. We have a link to the student view that you can copy and pop right into your LMS system. Here, if you click open lesson as a student, you'll see exactly what they see when you share that link with them. So you can see they have access to the activity sheets, they have access to the video with all of the chapters, and then all of the materials and print instructions are here as well if they need that to access it. It's all there for them. We have the completion checklist, and then they can also provide feedback as well. But we've tried to make this as simple as possible for you to implement with your students. This is something that you can put up and do whole group instruction and just have one window open, or this is something that you can share for students to do through an LMS or during independent work time. It's completely up to you, or in small groups. We've tried to make it as flexible as possible for you. So we highly recommend you start with this series. The other thing I'd like to point out is when you log into Ozobot Classroom, we do have new pacing guides by grade level. And if you open these pacing guides, we've actually paced out how we recommend you go through the lessons. So we recommend you start with the Introduction to Color Code series. You can see here, there are 9 different lessons. Then we've provided some content integration options for you. And then your students can jump into the introduction to Ozobot Blockly introduction lessons, and then more content integration for Ozobot Blockly as well. So those are some really, really helpful tools for you to use for this back to school season. Looks like Jay Cherie has a question about how do we check student work progress? I'm assuming you're asking about if you share this share with students link with your students. They actually would have to turn in their content through the LMS to you. You would have to manage that on your own. Yes, so on the LMS, you would just have to ask your students to turn it in through whatever LMS system you're using and set the expectations around that with your LMS system and what you expect of your students, whether that's taking a picture or emailing that in. We've left that up to you because we know that teachers want flexibility and need flexibility with that. Great question. The other thing I wanted to point out as well is that we have holiday and seasonal lessons as well. We have really, really focused on highlighting equity and equity in computer science, and we want students to see themselves in what they're learning. So we have been very, very intentional about including different cultures and students from different types of backgrounds and students representative of students that we see in our classroom in all of our lesson content. So we highly recommend that you check out our holiday and seasonal activities to do with your students if you're looking for fun activities to do. We've also really prioritized accessibility. So again, all of these lessons that are video lessons include the instructional videos, the student activity guides. The videos are chaptered for self-pacing if you choose to do that with your students. There's auditory and visual guidance. There's text instructions. We want to address that tech gap by making sure that students have access to computer science learning, but we know teachers don't have more time in the day, but you're being asked to teach more without being given more time. So we've been super intentional about integrating content so that you can teach computer science and STEAM while you're teaching the content that you're already delivering anyway. These lessons are for any grade level and any skill level. And we also support students with color vision deficiency as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to Brian. I showed you a little bit of classroom, but I know he has more to show you. And I know he wants to share about the hybrid program as well.
Okay, I'm not going to make that same mistake of being on mute. Let me go back to sharing my screen real quick. Cool. I'm guessing everyone can see my screen. All right, cool. So Melissa did talk a little bit about Ozobot Classroom. Definitely want to highlight and reiterate, it's free for everyone to sign up. If you have Ozobot, thinking about Ozobot, anything like that, highly recommend it. It's really your one-stop shop as an educator. Again, it has all of our lesson library right here. These lessons, as I mentioned before, and basically my introduction, we have over 500 lessons created by us here at Ozobot and by educators like yourself. So not only can you be the educator for your own district, your own school, you can really become that global teacher too. All you have to do is submit it to us, the lesson you created to us here at Ozobot. We go through a pretty rigorous vetting process, and then we publish it out to the entire community, which is great. Secondly, was those pacing guides Melissa mentioned too, but also our bots are definitely can be used in both classroom and at home. We know that this upcoming school year is going to be perhaps just as challenging, if not more challenging than last year. So we actually created a hybrid program where students can not only use their bots in class, in the library, but also take them home. What we've done here is actually created basically like a book size where they can put it in their backpack, a little carrying case. So in this carrying case, we put your little bot, your own markers, your charger, and your color codes, and a bunch of fun little activities in there too. So that student can not only complete the lesson in their own classroom, but they can take the lesson home too. So as an educator, you can assign those lessons that we just saw Melissa highlight, assign that to them, and they can complete that at their own time or at a time that you destine for them. Anything else, Melissa, that I'm missing on at least the hybrid aspect of Ozobot?
I think you got it.
Cool.
Cool. All right. So I believe we are at Q&A at this point. Let me check the Q&A. Patricia is asking, can you contrast Evo versus Bit? We have some of both. Brian, do you want to take that one, or would you like me to chime in on that?
Yeah, sure. So our bits are some of our older bots. We haven't been making those in a few years now. The biggest difference is our Ozo Evos right here, what you see right here. They have Bluetooth capabilities. So you can actually connect them and watch them and monitor them via Bluetooth. And they also have that sensory aspect. So you can actually kind of control the bots with sensors. I would say those are the two biggest differences outside of we just don't make bits anymore too. Anything to add there, Melissa?
Oh, I think you got it. That's a great question.
Can I just add one thing? Bits are available internationally. So we do have a couple of people, we have someone from New Zealand with us today. So they still can purchase bits through distributors in Australia, New Zealand, and Asia. So.
Thank you, Jen. Great. Were there any other questions in our in the chat that came up? Sheila, I believe Janet sent you a link to the specific lesson that you had requested. So let us know how that goes for you. It looks like, yes, those student links can be put into Google Classroom. The Ohana Institute has asked. Are there any other questions that haven't been answered? All right, great. So with that, we just have a couple of wrap-up points for everybody. If you need any bots, you can request a demo or a quote at ozobot.com. You can also try free Ozobot challenges. If you go to ozobot.com/create challenges, let me show you those very quickly. These challenges don't require a bot, so it's really great to use with your students. If you go to lessons and activities and Blockly challenges, we have past webinars that go through the different levels of Ozotown, Shape Tracer 1 and Shape Tracer 2. I'll click into these really quickly to show you, but essentially there is a simulator in the right window. The challenge that your students have are to get the bot to glow the same color as the light, the line, and to trace the shapes. So here you can see I've already built some code. All of the blocks that are needed are contained here on the left-hand side, so your students don't have to go anywhere else, and it's very simplified. Once they build the code, they hit run, and it tells them whether they were successful or if they need to try again. It'll also tell them if they've used too many blocks. So for example, I could get my bot to do the same thing by moving 5 steps twice. And if I did that, it'll tell me I was successful, but I could do it with fewer blocks. So this is a really, really great starting point if you don't have bots yet, but you still want to get that computer science out to your students. You can get a free copy of our funding and grants tool at ozo.bot/funding. And you can create your Ozobot Classroom account at classroom.ozobot.com, where we have training and the lessons for you. I'm just going to check the chat one more time. Looks like Crystal has put in those different links into the chat for you to easily access. Thank you, Crystal. And if we don't have any more questions, we will say thank you for joining us. And we hope everyone has a wonderful school year. We know things are unpredictable at this moment in time. And we thank all of you for what you're doing for your students and your families. We very much appreciate it, and we know how hard it is. And we hope that we can be a source of support for you all. So if there's anything we can do to help you implement with robotics or computer science, please don't hesitate to reach out. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.